tips for shopping for motorcycle insurance. Let's talk about that. Let's get cracking. Welcome to Kraken's Garage. Today we're going to talk about motorcycle insurance. How to shop for it, what to look for, what is the coverage you're getting for your money, am I getting the best rates, how to shop for the best rates. At the end of this video, we'll give one shout out as we try to help the moto community one video at a time. Before we get started, I'll put the caveat on this video that when I talk about this is for the state of Virginia in North America. Every single state is different regarding their laws for insurance, let alone different countries. If you live in Canada, Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, every country has its own very rigid rules for insurance that you need to follow, and you need to understand the ramifications if you don't follow them, what the penalties are, at least here for the state of Virginia. I recently purchased this small bore Super Sport, and it's kind of a jackpot question because Super Sports are normally tagged with a very high insurance premium. The number one advice I can give you on this entire video is shop your insurance before you purchase your bike. And I'll explain why in a little bit, an incident that has happened to me. When you purchase a bike, you may get a shocking surprise with what your insurance costs when you get the quote. A lot of us already have motorcycle insurance, so we don't even think twice. We buy a new bike, drag it home, call up you're automatically covered as soon as you drive off the lot. Call up your insurance when you get home, only to find out it was ungodly expensive. First thing you should do is check your state or country's regulations for insurance. In Virginia, you have 3 different levels of insurance. You can pay a $500 uninsured motor vehicle fee. And what that means is everything is on you. If you have an accident, you pay for it. If you hurt somebody or damage their property, you pay for it. It's really not a bright idea unless you're a billionaire and have very, very deep pockets. Very few people may do that. The second tier is liability only, and what that means is if you damage somebody else's vehicle, property, or physical well-being, your liability insurance will cover it. Now, if you take on any damage on your bike or on your person, you own it. It's not going to cover one dime of it. So it's very basic insurance that a lot of motorcyclists ride around on. And the third tier would be full coverage insurance. And that's where you normally have a deductible anywhere from 0 up to 1,000, and you insure yourself per incident. And we'll talk about what I carry for insurance on all 4 of my bikes. But in the event you lay your bike down and you damage the bike, call the insurance, you pay the deductible, and it's fixed, or total depending on the amount of damage. So that's always advisable if you can afford it. But when you get into sport bikes, it gets ungodly expensive. It really does. So here in the state of Virginia, first you must carry proof of insurance with you when you operate any motor vehicle, car or motorcycle. Don't ever let your insurance lapse for even one day. If it lapses for even one day, your license is automatically revoked. The insurance company notifies the Division of Motor Vehicles, your license is now null and void, your insurance is null and void, and your tags on your vehicle are null and void. And if you get pulled over, you're going to be in a world of hurt. And you need to understand today's police cars, they have scanners on them. They're reading license plates 360 degrees around them and running to check for stolen vehicles. It'll flag you in a New York minute that you have no insurance and you shouldn't be driving, and they're going to immediately pull you over. If that happens in the state of Virginia, you must surrender your driver's license and your license plates immediately, or reinstate your insurance, and to activate your plates and driver's license again, you have to pay a $600 statutory fee, file a responsibility insurance certificate known as an SR-22. An SR-22 may sound more familiar to people that have had a DUI, driving under the influence, or commonly called drunk driving. You are now a mega risk for insuring a motor vehicle with. I guarantee you your premiums are going to triple, if not quadruple, if you have to file an SR-22 plus your $600 fine. The minimum limits for the state of Virginia, and every state and country is different, so you need to find out before you buy your bike, is $30,000 for injury or death of one person, $60,000 for injury or death of 2 or more people, property damage of up to $20,000, which isn't much. not so much in motorcycles, but in an automobile. If you plow into a vehicle today, you can exceed $20,000 in a second, and the rest is going to be on you to pay for it. Your liability, you should up those premiums to a solid amount that will cover you in the event a mishap happens, if you can afford it. Now, the question at hand when I bought this bike is, does this 7th, 8th micro super sport bike fly below the radar on the insurance regarding being branded as a sport motorcycle? The answer is kind of yes and no. I insure 4 motorcycles, and my premium per year on this vehicle, full coverage, with 100,000 bodily injury, 300,000 per each incident, property damage of 100,000, towing and labor costs $50 deductible, and they come get you and pick you up off the road. And I did not opt for rental car or income loss reimbursement. All of that is not something I'm interested in. My premium comes to $432.81 on this bike per year. All right, is that fairly good for a super sport for somebody who has no tickets in the last 10 years, homeowner, etc.? Yeah, that's not bad. That's actually pretty good for full coverage insurance. However, if you compare it to my $30,000 Harley, it's within $50 of what that bike costs to insure versus a 400cc bike. So they are docking it a little bit for being a sport bike, even in my bracket. Now let's talk about what affects your insurance premiums. When you're shopping for insurance quotes, shop all the major brands. Allstate, Nationwide, General, Progressive, Geico. Those are just some of the more common ones in North America. They're all going to rate your bike differently because they're basing it off of their stats. Their stats are not shared with the entire insurance group. If they've had a lot more incidents with this bike with a specific insurance company, then the premiums are going to be higher than the next insurance company. So do your due diligence and shop it. Asking for a free quote is free. Most of this you can do online and get your answers usually within 15 minutes or so. If you live in the north, say Canada or North America, up in the colder climates, look into getting or asking about seasonal insurance. If you take your bike off the road 3, 4, 5, 6 months a year, they make sure insurance premiums that work around that so that when you park the bike, it has no insurance on it, and then come springtime, it starts back up and you're up and rolling again. I guarantee you that will cut your insurance in half. And if you're not riding anyway, why not? Why aren't you doing it? The amount of coverage you have, whether you do the $600 uninsured motorist, you have zero coverage all the way. Anything that happens is on you. Then you have liability only. You can opt to buy more liability, and I strongly recommend you do. The minimum state requirements are a joke. And then you have full coverage, and you can up that all the way to an umbrella $1 million policy and $0 deductible if you can afford those premiums. I roll the dice and shoot it somewhere in the middle, and that's where I'm comfortable. Everybody's different. So think long and hard about the amount of coverage. Be realistic and take a look. That will affect your premiums if you up the ante on the insurance. It doesn't hurt to ask when you're getting a quote. All right, here's what the bare minimum is. What is the next tiers up, and what is my dollars out of pocket for those tiers to get a little more insurance? Ask every time, and every quote will be different from every insurance company. Next is the deductible amount. Mine is $250, which isn't much. That won't even buy a tire these days. You can up that all the way up to $1,000, I think. I've seen on occasion higher deductibles. And what that does is if you total your bike, you pay the first $1,000 out of whatever the bike was worth that you lost, and the insurance will pick up the rest and hand you a check for the remainder of it. Now that's up to you. It's all a risk versus gain, so think about that long and hard. Don't listen to that buddy that says, oh, I got the same bike and my insurance is a lot cheaper. There's a lot more to it than just having insurance, because there's 1,000 different tiers of having insurance. Do you have good credit? If your credit score, or Beacon score it's sometimes referred to, or FICO score, they give you a numeric value on your credit rating. And if you don't pay your bills on time, and you've been late on payments for whatever reason, you are a much higher risk. You are going to pay a much higher premium, 100% of the time. Insurance companies don't disclose this, but that's facts. it behooves you to pay your bills on time. You'll get lower interest rates, you have lower insurance premiums, you get multitude of benefits for doing the right thing and only signing on the dotted line for whatever you owe for car payments, bike payments, insurance, and know that you can pay it. Geographically, where do you live? Do you live in downtown Los Angeles? Or do you live in Ohio where you're surrounded by cornfields? So you can see LA is going to be a hell of a lot more expensive to insure there because there's an accident on every corner. And in Ohio, where you're out in rural America, no, it's not going to be as much. So geographically, it makes a heck of a lot of difference where you live. And I assume that would be the same in most other countries. If you lived in Sydney versus the Outback, I'm sure your insurance would be different. One quick example, I went and bought, I've been with Allstate for 38 years, and I went and bought a 𝕒𝕑𝕠𝕦𝕥 SE. And I dragged it home and called up the insurance company. I had not done my due diligence and said, I'd like to add this to my policy. And they were like, no problem, Kraken, that'll be $1,200 a year. I about passed out and fell over my chair, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? Well, they rated it as a sport bike, and it was a high-risk bike. I'm like, that's not going to happen. So I immediately started shopping, and I checked all of them, and I wound up going with GEICO, which is an acronym for Government Employees Insurance here in North America, and brought that down to about $300. I don't know about you, but saving $700 on insurance for the same coverage is kind of important to me. So that's how it bit me. So shop your insurance before you buy your motorcycle. A lot of times, some of the sport bikes you want, you may not be able to afford the insurance, even if you can afford the bike. So look into it. So I hope these tips help you out on shopping for bike insurance. If you have any questions, just leave them down below and I'll answer them as best I can. For those of us that are long in the tooth, we have done this dance for a lot of decades, and it can be tough to understand and navigate. So I hope this video helps a few of you out. And you know what time it is. This week's shout out goes to Robin the Lady Biker. She has 4,680 subs. She has 578 videos. She's rocking a 2020 Harley-Davidson Road King. She calls Scarlet. She used to live in California, and her and her husband packed up and moved to Australia, and they're now, as I'm presently speaking, touring across Australia, which I think is fabulous. Robin tells a wonderful story. She does a magnificent job on her channel. Why she doesn't have 4 times the amount of subs and views she has, I have no idea. If you would be so kind to go by and check out Robin the Lady Biker, and if you decide you like her, give it a thumbs up. If you subscribe to her, please let her know that Kraken sent you. And there's my ghost dog Bourbon. He's here to remind me to wrap up this video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. If you want to see more in the future, hit the subscribe button somewhere down there in the corner. And remember, folks, go riding because it's good for you. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.